Hey Soul Warriors, are you feeling like your world is turning upside down? Do you sense a major shift coming, but you just can't put your finger on it? Well, in this video, we will reveal the 3 unmistakable signs that you are on the verge of a reality shift. Think pressure on steroids. If life's been throwing you curveballs, or if you're questioning what's even real, then this video is for you. So stay tuned because your life might be about to change in ways that you can't even imagine.
Well, all right then.
Alrighty then. Reality shifting. So we've all had those moments where we want something to change. The relationship, the job, our health, our mindset, spirituality, something.
Yeah.
And we're craving it and we're doing all the things, or we're doing nothing because we're buried by it. So here are 3 signs so you can see where you're at and what to do about it to more easily shift. The first one, resistance. This is like a pressure cooker where things are mounting and stuff keeps happening and you're having the conversations and you're meditating and you're doing all the things, but it just keeps seeming to feel more and more pressure, more and more, worse and worse and worse and worse, no matter what you do.
Yeah. That's when you're definitely sitting in resistance. You're bumping up against whatever it is that's making you uncomfortable. So you're not wanting to move from where you are because, it's interesting on how we feel comfortable in the chaos, in the uncertainty, and yet we don't like it at the same time. So it's interesting that we end up there consistently.
And the reason being is because we usually cycle around to these things over and over again. Because until you're truly ready to make that reality shift, you'll hold tight to that comfort zone. You'll hold tight to that pain because it's the demon that you know.
Exactly.
And you'll stay there and it'll come around again and again until the pain is so much that you're like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And that might lead you to say, then why is it happening if it doesn't serve me? Especially if I'm doing all of the things, it gets so frustrating. And, and I've been there and I'm like, why? I keep doing all the things. It doesn't make any sense. But it first comes up to give you an opportunity to evolve, to learn, to grow, to step outside of wherever you've become super comfortable being. Right. Even if you're uncomfortable being there.
Right. It's like the universe telling you, is like, hey, this is something that you need to work on. This is something that you need to get past. This is something that you need to heal. Whatever it is that you believe in is that's their way of giving you a, hey, there's stuff that needs to be done. There's stuff that needs to be worked on. But when we get into that because it makes us uncomfortable, that's when we dig in our heels. That's when we start resisting. That's when we start to get fearful. We start to get angry. We start to get all those different things so that we don't move from the very place we want to move from.
Right. We'll start defending why we're there.
Exactly.
And it's usually never our fault.
Right.
It's the boss's fault. It's the coworker's fault. It's the spouse's fault.
Yeah.
It's somebody else. It's not you.
Right.
So you dig your feet in because you're doing the right things. Right. I meditated today and I'm a good person. So why? Yeah. When we get into kind of a victim mentality.
Yeah.
And in this step, this is where you truly start to recognize that reality is what you've decided it to be. It's the story that you keep telling. It's all the things you're choosing to focus on instead of focusing on your growth.
Right.
And if you've focused on your growth, because a lot of us are at this point where we get frustrated because we have done all the things, this is where you surrender. You're like, okay, I've done my work. I've taken inspired action. I have, I'm keeping myself in a very peaceful, loving place. I'm looking at all the old stuff. I'm dealing with it. I'm waiting for the shift to come in whenever it's ready. And
what's funny about that though is like we talk about surrender and a lot of us have a hard time with that. It's like we want to think that we're capable, but a lot of the times again we fall into the resistant part of it because somewhere in you realize that it's going to create change, and change instinctually makes us uncomfortable. But we want change all the time.
We want controlled change. We want to stay in control.
I guess that's the key. Yeah. Control change. Yeah.
Yeah. So surrender makes us feel out of control. And all surrender is like, say you're back in school and you and your friend are working on some project for school. and you decided that you're going to read the book and write the first few pages, and they're going to draw pictures and like put the whole thing together at the end. And you've done your two things, and now you're handing it over to the next person, surrendering, trusting that they're going to do their part of the deal. So this is where you've done your meditation, you've taken your inspired action steps, you've clearly communicated with yourself and with people around you. And now you're trusting and handing it over to the universe. And we'll link a video up about the universe and how to trust it. Because I think that's a really important thing if that's where you're stuck. And then that, so surrendering is just kind of a co-creating, a working togetherness. It's not a like, everything's going to get out of control. All that pressure mounting is everything out of control, because you're starting to feel overwhelmed. You're starting to feel like all the things that you normally do don't work anymore, and you just can't.
I mean, the bottom line is that when you're feeling out of control in a pressure cooker or any of those things, it's done so that you can move. So the more you dig your heels in, the worse the pressure gets.
Right.
So as much as it makes you uncomfortable, allow it. I mean, you have to allow it, because that creates change. Things need to be torn down before they can be rebuilt. So think about it that way.
Right. Exactly. All right. So the second sign is, we like to call it the breakdown. This is where you're starting to look at your old pain stories, or you're recognizing pain stories that you've had subconsciously. You didn't even realize were there, and those kind of run your life. You're also starting to see, what do I say all the time? What do I think? What do I believe? And why do I believe that? You start getting really curious, and you're questioning things, and you're looking at things from more of an observer point of view. Like, why did I do that? Why do I keep, taking XYZ action that always lands me here? Why do I keep settling back into this job or this relationship when I know it doesn't make me happy anymore? When I know I don't feel like I'm living and thriving in it? You get super curious.
Right, for sure. I mean, when you're sitting in self-awareness, it gives you the opportunity to look at the whole picture. It's giving the universe the ability to fill the spaces that make you uncomfortable. I think that's the thing. It really does. It gives you the direction, the answers, the power within you to know that these next steps, although uncomfortable, you can get through them.
Exactly. And it requires a different version of you. That's why we call it the breakdown, because you're breaking down those parts of your old self that don't serve you anymore. Like maybe your parents or your grandparents instilled in you, you don't give up in a relationship, or you don't give up, period. You just keep toughing it out and working hard, and all those things that play in the back of our heads, so that we're like, yeah, and I don't want to look bad in public. Like, I was only at this job for 6 months and I couldn't hack it. Or, I'm only this relationship after all these years that it's going to go away. That's okay. And sometimes the growth and the breakdown required is just your mindset. It's just a shift in your own energy. It doesn't have to be external, outside things. So sometimes if a relationship is going wonky or a job is going wonky, it might just be calling for a different version of you. So this is where you're always working internally first, because your reality might totally shift. You just changed, a little bit in your confidence or your belief system around the job or whatever. And then suddenly you're getting recognized and you're getting a promotion when you were just about to quit. Reality can shift in on a dime. It doesn't have to be all of this stuff.
Right.
The pressure comes, you take a look at your stuff, you learn and grow. Hopefully you're continually doing that, so you don't have to get this giant buildup of pressure. And then you get to the third sign, which we like to call celebrate to elevate. Because you want to elevate into a different version of you. You want to be in a higher frequency where you're feeling better and not this all dense, dark, hard stuff. You want the more light, joyful, happier feelings, obviously. So how do you do that? It's celebration. This is where you're thanking your old self. You're thanking that person who made your life hell because you learned X, Y, and Z, and you finally stood up for yourself, or you finally had the guts to to walk out the door, to quit, to like whatever it is, you finally had the motivation. You know, somebody said something to you and you're like, that's not true. I'm not X, Y, and Z, whatever they said. So it gives you the motivation to be more confident or to work on your health or, you know, whatever it is that you really want to shift that feels good to you.
Yeah, I mean, celebration is a good thing. I know that I learned that while I was coaching with Dallas, that he was always about, you know, how did you celebrate your wins? So when I was doing any kind of shifting, any kind of growth, he encouraged me to celebrate it. And I had the hardest time figuring that out. Like what did I consider a win? That was one of the things that I would often get stuck in, and how to celebrate it on top of that. So there was just so many different factors. So I tried to make it less complicated for myself. Whatever felt good, that's what I did. That's what I celebrated. And it seemed to work. So yeah, definitely. And then the energy shifted. My whole thing about celebrating shifted because it became a bit of a chore for me versus something that I needed to enjoy.
Yeah, I remember when you were coaching, and every week it's like,
oh no, I have to celebrate.
What are my wins this week? And what can I say I'm doing to, like, what can we go do to celebrate? Yeah. Like, it became another task to do.
Yeah, I had a certain thought about it, a certain feeling behind it. And when I shifted that, because I became aware that that's what I was doing, that's when it changed for me. And it got simpler, and celebrating became easier. And I didn't put too much stock into it because it was driving me freaking nuts, because I was looking at it as like, oh, homework.
Yeah, exactly.
And me being who I am, I didn't like it. So I was giving it pressure, you know, and all those things, and then finally broke it down and ended up in the celebration part of it.
Yeah. And mind you, we all want to celebrate. We all want to feel joy. So why do we make things into this hard chore, this extraness, putting on all of our old beliefs? That was a lot of old beliefs. Yeah. That was a lot of just fitting it in with everything else instead of really taking it for the simplicity of what it was.
Myself. I never really like valued my wins. I guess it was the awareness that I got, because I was always so outward, like, you know, making sure other people were okay, my family was okay, and I was always doing outward stuff versus inward. Like, I just did what I did.
Yep.
Doesn't need to be celebrated. It's what
that's
I do.
Just life.
You know,
we're taught to look at the things where we fail.
That's how I was looking at it and feeling about it. And when he encouraged me to really sit with it and really enjoy it and really understand that I also need to value my shit versus just out here, that's when it shifted for me. Yeah. You know, so it was really all about how I looked at it and felt about it.
Right. It's stepping out of that program of just like, what's wrong? What do I have to fix? What do I have to do? Instead of that slowing down energy of like, you know, okay, that's something that needs to be addressed. That's something awesome. Celebrate that. Duly noted. And just looking at life, from a much more simpler, more dialed back, more centered place.
Well, I went through those things, the pressure, the breakdown, and the celebration part of things. So it was quite the 6 months of coaching that I was just, the breakdown part of it was epic.
Right, exactly.
There was a lot of moments, you know, there was not crying and all those things, never being aware of the little things that were really bothering me inside. And once those came out to the surface, breaking them down and really getting to a balanced place with them was key for me. And but I never realized how much being able to celebrate those little wins meant and shifted in my life until he encouraged me to do that.
I stepped myself into that. I went through something last year very similar, and I stepped myself into it through writing. Because I realized when I was speaking to other people, I was getting so into story and so into the emotional side of it. And it was just, you know, and of course, most people were, oh, yeah, I get that. Oh, that's just wrong. They shouldn't have done that. And they'll help, you know, champion the pain in the story. It's ridiculous. You know, you have every right to be upset. And I did because things were going on. But at the same time, like when I just wrote it down, Like, you write it and then it's done, because there's no perpetuating of the energy with another human being. Unless you notice you're on page frickin' 20 of telling the same story. Like, I started just writing, like, this is what happened. This is how I feel about it. This is what I think about it. And then started writing into, like, this is how I want to feel about it. This is what I would like to happen. These are the 3 simple things that I know I can do towards this end. And just 3 simple things, and that's it. And then I started writing about what it would look like after it shifted and what it would feel like. And so I'm just writing, I did one little thing, and then snap, everything just started to fall into place, and it was hard and it was uncomfortable, but I did it. And after, I just felt this huge sense of relief. And you'll find this, that you'll often, there'll be a moment, if you think back to when reality shifted for you in the past, there'll be a moment where you're like, yeah, that was the moment where I stepped out of that old paradigm, out of that old energy, and stepped into the new me in my new life. And it feels so freaking good.
It does. It does. You'd be surprised how good it feels when you stop resisting.
Yeah. And this can feel so hard because you can only perceive within the vibration that you're currently at. And this is why we're talking about, celebrating, because that's a different vibration. This is why I'm talking about journaling, to walk myself out of the story. I mean, unless you have a trusted person, like, like a coach or somebody neutral, or a really, with it friend that can just hold space and just purely listen and not help perpetuate it. So you can go through these steps to get into a different vibration, because then you can perceive it from a whole different place. If you're looking at it from your power, that is a level of control, not the 3D control like we're used to, but a whole level of just like,
yeah,
I'm all that is. Everything is working in my benefit right now, and everything always works out for me.
You've balanced. You're in that place of knowing. You're in your power. You're really thriving in the ability of knowing that you have all the tools that you need to get through life.
Exactly. All right. So these are your 3 signs. Let us know in the comments which one you're really feeling right now. And if you need support, reach out, subscribe to the channel for more of this, because we are here to support you.
Absolutely.
We're here to serve and coach, and just be right with you in the trenches, so you don't have to feel alone anymore.
Yeah, that's it. Be kind.
Peace.